In this video, I'm going to demonstrate how to freehand draw and underpaint these sunflowers in an old master style. No pencils, no tracings needed. Hi, I'm Marion Dutton. I'm the author of the Healing Art book and the founder of MazArt Studio. And if this is the first time we've met, do consider subscribing to my channel and don't forget to give me those all important thumbs up. I'm asked all the time if this underpainting technique can be used for other subjects, and the answer is yes. So keep watching this video until the end because I'll show you some examples of how and where I've used this technique. It may give you some ideas of how you can use it for your own paintings. I'll also add a list of products in the description below so you'll know exactly what I'm using for this demonstration. Another question I get asked all the time is, where do I get my reference photos? Well, of course I do take and use my own photos quite often, but I also use iStock photos. The photos are royalty free and the choice and the quality is endless. I've used iStock photos for this particular demonstration, so if you'd like to join me and paint along with me, I've put a link in the description below to the exact photo that I've used. I always love seeing what my students get up to, so if you do decide to paint along, please join the MazArt Facebook group where you can share your version. Or you can join me on Instagram and hashtag MazArt Studio. So without further ado, let's get to the video. I'm going to begin by mixing a small amount of medium with some burnt umber. I'm using an old scrubby brush for this stage. I do want to stress as well that I am only using a very small amount of the oil medium. You really need to be scrubbing this into the weave of your canvas. So again, you can really see me pushing this paint. I would rather you really push the paint than add too much medium and make this very slippy and wet. I'll be covering the entire canvas in the burnt umber. Once the entire canvas is covered, I'm going to take a paper towel and just wipe off that excess oil and even out my brush strokes. I do this a couple of times, very lightly. I'm not putting a lot of pressure on with that paper towel. I begin my drawing using basic shapes and angles to establish the placement of each of the objects. I have a little bit of burnt umber on the brush and I'm using a soft filbert brush. This is a synthetic. Here I am adding loose circles where the sunflowers will be placed. Here I'm using a Q-tip to begin erasing the background. I am using a negative drawing technique to help me establish the placements of the sunflowers. I switched to using a paper towel to begin erasing the petals of the sunflowers. At this stage I'm keeping everything very loose. I'm not trying to be precise at all, I'm just getting some basic shapes in place. I do exactly the same for the fruit. I just simply rub out the shapes. Here you will see me erasing the leaf shapes. Keep this very, very simple at this stage. Remembering that as the painting progresses, we'll be able to fine-tune the details later on. The harder I rub, the more I'm able to reveal the white of the canvas. This gives the illusion of shine on the apples. Here I'm continuing with the erasing to establish the shape of the vase. I've switched to burnt umber again now, and I'm going to begin adding some of the shaded areas that I see. Back to the paper towel now to lift even more light on the petals. I begin adding some leaves underneath the sunflowers using the burnt umber again. So here you can see a more detailed sunflower. Don't panic, I will be showing you up close shots on how I've created this effect. Keep watching. I've slowed the footage down so that you can really see the petal strokes. To bring the canvas to an almost white colour, I have dipped a clean flat brush into my oil medium. I've wiped off the excess oil from the brush so it doesn't drip, and then I use the brush as an eraser. I am constantly wiping the brush on a paper towel between each stroke so that the brush stays nice and clean. I push the brush flat and then twist it up onto a chiselled edge to form each petal. Often repeating a brush stroke to bring up a lighter colour. If you'd like to see more of this petal stroke, please refer to my sunflowers in a blue vase tutorial. I'll add a link in the description below. Notice I am not concerning myself with the centres, as we'll be able to add those later. I've sped things up again now, as a lot of these strokes are very repetitive, and this painting took over 6 hours to complete. Once again I switch back to the burnt umber and begin detailing the fruit. And here I'm back to using the flat brush as an eraser to create those leaves. It is important that you have a good quality flat brush which can snap to a sharp chiselled edge. The brushes I am using are from my own brush set. So you can see I'm constantly jumping from adding on darker colour and darker tones and then wiping and erasing using a variety of different tools. I'm adjusting the drawing and the shapes of each object as I progress through the painting. I'm hoping that you can see it's quite easy to draw with oil on canvas because it's so easy to erase and adjust your shapes. The centres are created using a Q-tip dipped into a little bit of the oil. Here I'm adding the shadows onto the vase and underneath the flowers. I'm able to establish the shape now. I'm adding more and more paint as I establish one tone against the next. Here I'm creating some reflections onto the table. Now that the painting's quite established, we can really start adding some detail. I'm adding more medium and rubbing back to really brighten some of the highlighted petals. Don't overdo this stage, you do want some of those petals in shadow. I'm darkening the background around the bowl, and I'll be darkening the upper corners of the painting for a real Old Master vignette effect. Here I'm adding shadows to the inside of some of the petals and around the centres. I strengthen a few of the shadows before I call this a finished painting. I hope you've enjoyed this demonstration and feel inspired to give this a go. Thanks very much for watching.